With me today, I have the Edifier s1000db, and in today's video, I'm going to summarize my experience thus far. So I'm no stranger to Edifier. In fact, I've owned Edifiers way back when I was in high school. It was a 2.1 system, the S330s. I'm not sure if they still sell them anymore, but it was basically a powered 2.1 system with a subwoofer and two little satellite bookshelves. And I genuinely enjoyed that system in particular. In fact, for some reason I decided, I'd get a 5.1 system, and I went Logitech, and it was Z5500, and I thought more watts and a bigger subwoofer would equate to better sound. I was wrong about that one, big time, but I only realized until I transitioned to passive speakers. Well, Edifier sent these in. These are the s1000db, and these are powered speakers that they do so well, and they have a long history of doing, except this is an audiophile loudspeaker, and it's powered with DSP. Now, basically, I'm just going to tell you guys how it performs in real life, and the first red flag that I had with these speakers is that my first one was dysfunctional. Basically, the remote that is the only way to control the inputs on this speaker stopped working, or not the remote, the actual speaker itself. And that wasn't the only thing that went wrong. The amp internally would randomly stop working. So, things happen. I might have got a dud, and I reached out to Edifier, and they sent me another review unit. And this one has its problems too, and I'm not sure if it's just this one or just all of them, because it comes back to the DSP, or maybe even the amp. I'm not too sure. But here's how it goes. So before I get really nitpicky into that, let's talk about the features and what I think about it as a first impression. Well, my first impression is that I like these speakers. In fact, if I'd ever heard them and it was just on looks alone, I would buy them. They're about 350 USD and 450 Canadian off Amazon last time I checked. They feature real wood panels, which is honestly unique. In fact, it has better build than KEF speakers. Most speakers nowadays are just MDF to save money. While at this price point, not only are they able to make powered speakers, but real wood. So on top of that, they have a nice transparent grille that honestly makes the speaker look better with it on than without it. And it still does the job. It prevents your speakers from fatal attacks and accidental mishaps, which is a good thing. Now, to top it all off, features-wise, you get that DSP where you can control the treble and the bass, and the way it works is that you have a knob in the back, two knobs actually, and that basically goes to -6 dB for the bass and treble to +6 dB in the bass and treble. The tweeter itself is a titanium dome tweeter. It gets 25 watts, and the mid-bass driver gets 35 watts. So respectively, each speaker gets 60 watts of power. And you have to really dig into Edifier's site to find that, because if you go on Amazon, it'll just say it's 120 watts. And it's Class D amplification, so you're packing everything into one master powered speaker, and the way it connects to the other speaker is through a proprietary 4-pin connector, and basically 2-pin goes to each driver, essentially. So you have two analog inputs, two RCAs, basically one for auxiliary, one for PC, and then two digital, which is coaxial and optical, and then Bluetooth to top it all off. And this remote is able to control all of that. So with all the features and just the design out of the way, let's go right into sound and the real life performance. So right off the bat with the sound, I wanted to like these speakers, but there are some flaws. Just like how I said with how the first speaker was dysfunctional, and I basically got a new unit. This speaker has its flaws too, and I'm not sure if it's the internal amping or the DSP. We'll start with the DSP though, before we really jump into those flaws. Basically with the DSP, it allows you to use these speakers not only in a mid-sized room, but also in a near-field desktop situation. In fact, for a mid-sized room, they even have matching stands that basically have that wood accent for these speakers. Now, I wouldn't recommend them in a mid-sized room because there's some distortion from these speakers. when you crank them up high, and if you use any of the DSP, especially if you're raising the bass or the treble, you get very audible distortion. And in near field, you hear treble distortion right away as soon as you start cranking up the treble. In fact, I wouldn't even recommend cranking up the treble. The only use for the treble DSP is to actually lower it. The bass overall, just from that reference perspective, it's very neutral. In fact, the sound of the speaker when left at 0 and 0, just right out of the box, it's okay. It's not gonna wow you. It tries to be a reference, but by doing that, it doesn't really excite you. Nothing really stands out, and it makes me, you know, rather go for a passive speaker, because at least there's a tuning towards that speaker that may meet your requirements. Now, I'm not saying reference is bad, it's just that you're not getting a lot of detail with the tweeter. Cranking the treble up just gives you distortion, so I wouldn't bother with that. The mid-range is okay. I mean, it's not like a shiver down your spine like LS50s, but I mean, at the price point, it's very modest. The bass is tight. That I'll give it that, but it doesn't extend low. And if you think that increasing, you know, the DSP will get it lower, it won't. You're better off adding a subwoofer, which it doesn't have a subwoofer out. So connecting a subwoofer might be a bit tricky. Now, in a near field environment, I'm gonna tell you, like, the treble is okay. None of it, it doesn't come off sibilant at all. It's only when you crank the DSP up. The sound stage is a tiny bit clustered. It's not like when I compare it to, let's say, KEF Q100s or Q150s, you get a really wide soundstage with decent imaging. Now, while these do provide, you know, a lot of instrumental detail in a sense where you know the instrument's there, you can't really pinpoint where it's at, which comes down to the speaker design itself. But, you know, other than that, I wasn't exactly blown away, but I wasn't exactly, you know, pissed off about it either. In fact, some of you may like it, but the problem with this speaker inherently is that every now and then you'll get artifacts from the speaker. I'm not sure if it's from the DSP. I'm not sure it's from the amp, and I'd love to find out more, but this review, essentially, I'm only allowed to have the speaker for 3 months, and those 3 months are out. And the first 2 months, it was me discovering or having the speaker fail on me, and then in this month, once I finally got the speaker, it still has some issues that I'm basically telling you guys. Now, it has 5-star reviews on Amazon, so maybe these might be the two speaker pairs that are just bad, but if I'm spending my hard-earned money on this, I wouldn't really recommend it, but you do get 2 years warranty. So I'm just putting it out there for all of you who are interested in this speaker. And I mean, I don't blame you, because it looks really good. And it's almost perfect for a near-field setup, especially if you like a reference tuning for the sound. Besides that, you know, it is what it is, and I hope Edifier maybe takes a look at the speaker and figures out what's causing that distortion, because it's not like I'm using Bluetooth or even the digital. I'm using my Audio GD DAC as a preamp through the RCA. I mean, Bluetooth's great if you just want to chill out and just play some ambient music when you have guests over or whatnot, but if you're having some serious 2-channel listening, I wouldn't use it. So yeah, that basically concludes the video. If you guys own a pair, let me know what your experience was, because mine wasn't too favorable. As much as I want to love these speakers, I really can't recommend them. So yeah, I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.